Well, something a little bit different today. The weather's pretty dire outside, so I thought we'd do the pumpkin experience. So I've never tackled a pumpkin before, so this is going to be very new to me. Maybe it's going to be new to you as well. If you've been following these YouTube videos, you'll know that I'm 65. And when you get to 65, you feel the need to tell everybody you meet in the street, or if you bump into somebody, you'll at some point in the conversation say, I'm 65. And in all these years I've never tackled a pumpkin. So the plan is to cut the top off it, scoop out the inside, use the inside to make soup, pumpkin soup, and then we'll try to carve some holes in it and make a kind of scary Halloweeny thing. It's quite a small pumpkin, but you know, it feels absolutely solid. I strongly suspect that the way to tell a ripe pumpkin, and I'm guessing here, is that if you press the bottom or the top, or I think that's the bottom, it'll kind of, there'll be a wee bit of give. This, unfortunately, is absolutely solid. It's like a turnip. So this may not all go to plan. First thing we'll do is give it a wash. And one of the first things I noticed is in the wee sticker at the side it tells you to wash it. There's no instructions. It's assumed that we all know what to do with a pumpkin. And for all I know, this could be used as a bowling ball. But the first thing I'm going to do is try and cut the top off it. And during this procedure, the prime consideration is to try and not cut your fingers off. So let me just get a plate and a knife. You may wish to look away now. This is a very sharp knife. I don't know how this is going to go. This is absolutely solid. They might accidentally have sold me a brick instead of a pumpkin. Right, keep your hands and your fingers out of the way. If the knife slips, you're not going to do any damage. That seems to be a good top there. Let's kind of cut in there. Okay, we're in. Take it easy. Oh, the knife's going the wrong way. What are you doing? Won't go that way, but yeah. It wasn't as bad as I thought. It's maybe not as hard as I initially thought. Oh, it's actually quite soft inside. As I say, this is an experience. I think what we do next is we scoop out this kind of soft inner bit, which I think is festooned with seeds. You don't really want the seeds unless you want to grow a pumpkin tree or a bush. I don't know what do pumpkins come in? Or they just grow in the ground, I think, do they? I don't know. Do you get pumpkin trees? I don't know. Right, so get this knife out of the way. Let me get a spoon. Let me see now, where are we? Right. Let's scoop out this stuff. Well, the seeds in it. And this soft inner stuff seems to be fairly easy to get rid of just with a spoon. I'll maybe tidy that up at some point. And all that stuff, that'll be good for the soup. Oh. Very soft. But this is the seeds bit. We don't want the seeds, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scoop out all these seeds, which this will all be discarded, and then we'll see. So that's alright. And then we'll see what we're left with. So I've scooped out all that soft pulpy stuff and inside the stuff that contains all the seeds, and this is sort of what we're left with. Pumpkin with a big hole in the middle. I'm not entirely sure of the best way of getting, you know, the stuff, forgive all these technical terms, but the stuff between the pulpy stuff and the outer skin is the stuff I want to scoop out and use for soup. I want to leave the skin because that'll be for the Halloweeny thing with the candles inside it. And I'm not entirely sure of the best way of getting this out. What I've done is I've kind of cut round, not going too near the skin. I want to keep the skin so it retains its shape for the Halloweeny thing, and I've kind of gone around. Be very careful when you're using a knife. Make sure your hands are out of the way so that if it slips you're not going to do any damage. Always think ahead. So as I say, I'm not sure of the best way of getting this out. I mean, a spoon might suffice on its own. There we go. So it's happening. Okay. So that stuff that I kind of pre-cut when the knife has come out actually quite easily. We'll stick that in the bowl, and this will be for the soup. There's a lot more to come, because there's not much there for soup. It's a lovely smell, I have to say. I mean, I've had pumpkin soup before. I've never smelled a fresh pumpkin. It's not like anything else I've ever smelled. Oh, right. I dare say there's probably some specific gadget for this, like a pumpkin scooper-ooter or something. Because this spoon isn't really sharp. You need something that's maybe can you get a sharp spoon? There will be a gizmo, I'm sure, that does the job. I'm just going to make a few little scores with the knife. I don't want to go too deep. I don't want to cut the outer skin. But if I just make a few little scores, keep my fingers out the way, then it might make it a little easier to get this stuff out. I'm not sure. This is quite a small pumpkin, and I'm beginning to think we're not going to get very much out of this for soup. But irrespective of what the amount that we get out, I am going to make soup out of this. Try that. That's probably why there's no instructions. They didn't want to tell you that at some point you should deploy a pneumatic drill. That would put folk off. They'd be thinking to themselves, I don't have a pneumatic drill, I'll just give that a miss. Come out, you brute, come out. Right, we're getting somewhere. Slowly but surely. Scoop, 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 scoop. Got to be careful. The pumpkin outer bit's getting thinner and thinner. I don't want it to collapse. The soup is just as important as the Halloweeny bit. Anyway, we're actually almost there. You can see what we've got now. I'll scoop out the rest of this and we'll go to the next stage. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, forgive me if I look a little red-faced and flustered. The bit of work involved in getting all that stuff out, but we've done it. Oops. And this is what we're left with. A scooped out pumpkin. I wasn't sure how far to go. I didn't want to go too far and leave that outer skin too thin and it might all kind of collapse. So this is the bit that we're going to use for the Halloween thing. And I wonder if you can just eat this raw. I don't know, but we're just going to make soup out of it. Probably a reason why you can't eat it raw. Yeah, so that's it. I'll probably get a couple of bowls of soup out of that. We'll make that shortly. First of all, let's make our Halloweeny thing. Take the top off. Now, I just want to make something simple. There's probably some artists out there who can do wonderful things with these. I'm just going to make something very simple. We've got eyes, a nose and a mouth. And I've got a knife here. That's fairly soft, that'll go through that alright. No reason why you shouldn't be able to draw what you want first before cutting with the knife. I don't know, probably a million ways of doing it. Let's do something really very simple. Which way is it going to stand? That's the thing. Okay, right, okay, right. Rub that off. Don't want that there. Yeah, okay. We'll stick just a couple of simple square eyes. That's what happens when you watch too much telly. A triangular nose. And some kind of jaggedy mouth thing. What do you think? So let's just cut this out. And as before, make sure your fingers are out of the way. So that if the knife's going through here, so make sure your hand's not behind what you're putting the knife through. Kind of difficult to get a grip of. So I'll do that there. Little cut. Little cut. Little cut. That should just pop out. Whoops. Right. Right, pop out like that. I won. Okay, so that's the Halloween bit all cut out, ready to go. I'll put that to use later on. I'm going to make a very simple soup. I'll start with frying an onion. I've never made pumpkin soup before. Any chef or anybody who's used to making a lot of soup will look at this and think, oh my god, what's he doing? But at the end of the day, I'm going to get something that tastes good out of that pumpkin. Even if it kills me. You should probably finely chop the onions. I'm just going to give them a rough chop, if I'm honest. Stick them in a pan and saute them for a while. So that's the onions softening up. There's probably lots of other things you could add just at this initial stage, but right now I'm just making do with what I've got in the cupboard, or the cupboards. And quite often that's when you make the best soup. I've chopped some mushrooms here, I'm going to stick this in as well. Again, it's just something I've got. Add a wee bit of flavour. What I have noticed, unfortunately, is quite often I'll use stock cubes at a Lidl. I've actually ran out. I've only got 1.5 stock cubes left, which isn't enough. You need some kind of base flavour, some base. So again, I'm going to have to sort of make do with something just to give a bit of flavour. Obviously the pumpkin is the main flavour, and that will provide practically all of the flavour, but you just need something else, which is why I've added a bit of mushroom there. And we'll see what else we've got in the cupboard. Okay, so that's the onions and the mushrooms softened up. I'm just going to add a little bit more oil. And I'm just going to now add a mixture of spices. Almost every spice I've got in the cupboard. There's no rhyme or reason to this. There's some paprika, some just regular mild curry powder, a little bit of cumin, a little bit of coriander, I think that's about it. So this, in the absence of enough sort of stock, this will add a bit of flavour. After all this, I hope the soup at least tastes passable. Because if it doesn't, I'm in trouble. I mean, that's actually quite a lot of spices there. Right. Get a few other bits and pieces that I'm going to add just to try and improve the flavour. Get some tomato puree, a little bit of French mustard. I don't know why I bought French mustard, I don't like the stuff. I would have preferred Dijon mustard, which is probably French, but very different to French mustard. Yeah, a wee bit might be alright. We'll see, it's all about experimenting. Worst that can happen is it'll taste horrible. At least what I've tried. And it keeps your mind busy during this fraught episode in the history of the world. Okay, it's time to add a little bit of water. Now I'll be honest, at this stage I'm not adding too much water because I don't actually know what's going to happen when I add the pumpkin. There might be a lot of water comes out the pumpkin, but water, turn the heat up a wee bit and we'll add the pumpkin. Try not to splash most of that pumpkin's in sort of small bits. Maybe it wouldn't have done any harm to cut it up into smaller bits, but I think that's alright. It's soft anyway. And once this is all over, we'll kind of blitz it with the blitzer. Okay. I mean, as long as I don't add too much water here, the pumpkin itself may thicken this up a bit. I do have corn flour in the event that it's all a bit too watery. But I also have the tomato paste will thicken it up. I am going to add a little bit more water. But not too much. So we'll bring this to the boil, simmer it for a while until the pumpkin sort of softens up and starts to kind of break down, if that's indeed what happens. I don't actually know what will happen. At some stage the pumpkin might start to think to itself, hey, wait a minute, I don't like being in this pot. Escape! Okay, so that's about 20-25 minutes or thereabouts, and the pumpkin seems to have softened up and broken down pretty well. There's still the odd little chunk, but even these chunks are soft, and once I blitz it with the blitzer, another technical term, all these kind of chunks will disappear. So we've got a few things that I'm going to add at this stage, and these are all about adding a bit of flavour. And doing the best that I can in the absence of probably all the stuff that I actually need. So let's see how we go here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to add is these measly 1.5 stock cubes that I've got. Just not enough, but what little it is will help a little bit. Oops. My God, I missed the pan. I missed the pan. I don't know where that bit of stock cube's gone. Behind the cooker. Just give my hands a little wash here. This is why when you move house, you suddenly find a lot of stuff behind your cooker that strangely disappeared at the time. Right, so that's stock cubes. Now going to add a little bit of tomato paste. Well, actually it would be more tomato paste, but again, this is all I've got left. Tomato paste has got an alarming habit of suddenly scooshing out, and again, a moment's inattentiveness could see me missing the pot here. You want to get every last bit out of there. There we go, right. I think I've wrung all the tomato paste out of that. I want to add just a little bit of sugar, 1/4 teaspoon or something like that. Don't ask me why. I'm making this up as I go along. Just a little bit of vinegar of some sort, just a tiny bit. That's all. Again, don't ask me why. About 1/2 teaspoon of mustard. Now at the moment the mixture's actually quite thin. What I'm going to do is just add, this is cheap sort of Savers gravy granules. It's very cheap, but it can add a little bit of thickness and flavour to stuff, as well as being able to make gravy. I'm not going to add too much. I don't want to. I'm just going to add 2 big teaspoons. Stir that in. And the next thing I want to do is blitz this, just to see just how thick it is. And at that point we can give it a bit of a taste and see what else it might need. And also if it's not thick enough, I'll add a bit of corn flour. But let's just see, it's actually thickened it up a wee bit, that's not bad. Let's just blitz this. Well, that was the blitzer. A very scary bit of kit. And all it seems to have done is allowed me to cover every surface in the kitchen with little brown dots. But it has also smoothed out a lot of the lumps, and what we now have is a kind of smooth liquid. And it's still not that thick. I mean, the thickness of soup is very much a matter of personal taste and preference. I would like that to be a little bit thicker, so I'm going to add just a little bit of corn flour. At the moment I'm playing a computer game called Fallout 4, which is really very good. It's a good way of taking your mind off what's happening in the world right now. It's all about the aftermath of a nuclear war. From one disaster to another. So a wee bit of corn flour, I'm not sure how much. Let's try a dessert spoonful, or 3/4 of a dessert spoonful. And we'll see how that, see what effect that has. I've often thought the blitzer would be a good weapon to have, and in Fallout 4, that game, you've got all sorts of weird sort of weapons that you can deploy. And I've often thought the blitzer would be a good one. It would allow you to, no matter which room you entered, you could instantly cover every surface in little brown dots. Right, this is one of the issues about adding corn flour like this. It goes into lumps. I should probably have mixed some of it in water in a separate little cup or something, just to kind of make sure it was all dissolved. Try and get into these. Anyway, I think that's essentially us. Now at this stage we've got a soup that just looks brown. We've got a brown liquid soup. It doesn't look, it's not got the kind of orange vibrancy of pumpkins. That's probably down to the spices that I added, which had a kind of brown colour. So it's not like any pumpkin soup I've ever tried, visually at least. Now before I taste it, I know I'm going to have to add some salt, so I'll add a little bit of salt, not too much. I haven't added any salt. I added a little bit of salt with the onions, but tiny bit, so it's going to need quite a bit of salt here to both help to bring out any flavour and perhaps to kind of mitigate the effects of not having enough stock cubes. Okay, it's time for a taste. Brace yourself. The The smell is predominantly of the spices I added. To be honest, I don't hold out a lot of hope for this. This could be rubbish. I suspect I probably needed more pumpkin, maybe cooked it with milk instead of water, and maybe added cream and stuff. I don't know. Bit of coconut or something. Anyway, we've made do. And we've got something that looks vaguely like soup. To be honest, it's passable. It tastes nothing like pumpkin. All I can taste is that tiny bit of vinegar that I added and all the spices. But nevertheless, the pumpkin's in there. A bit of goodness will come from that. This soup will last probably about 4 or 5 days. I want to have one more little try here. We need something, I'm just not sure what. It probably needs somebody who can properly cook or make pumpkin soup. That's what it probably needs. What's grown on me? It's actually not bad, yeah. Well done, Ed. Well, that was the pumpkin experience. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Eddie Burns. Stay safe, and I'll see you again.